Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here, y'all, for season 18 of Married at First Sight. Married at First Sight, season 18, episode 18. I'm back, y'all. I am back after being gone for 2 weeks. I am back from vacation, and of course, my voice is a little bit gone. Y'all know what happens to me when I party a little bit too hard. Well, I had a good time, and it looks like I left my voice all the way in Japan. But I'm back. I hope you guys are coming back here to talk with me a little bit about the episodes that go on or that went on while I was gone. It can't be really like a recap because y'all already saw it. But y'all can't come here to talk to me about it. I'm a little rusty. I'm a little bit still not tired, but I'm not all the way on West Coast time zone, which you guys know I live in California because it was a 16-hour difference. I just got back yesterday. So I'm still adjusting. And as you know, as you get older, it gets harder and harder to readjust your body clock. So it might take me a couple of days. But you know what? In talking about adjusting here on Married at First Sight, what they call this episode, they called it New Love is in the Air. I don't know if it's new love because some of this love is old love. Because Madison and David is old love because finally Madison admitted that she fell for David from the very beginning on the honeymoon. She finally admitted it to her daddy. I wonder if that daddy's going to go to David now and tell David to get an STD test because that's what he did. That's what he did to Alan. He told Alan to get an STD test on the honeymoon. No, on the wedding day. So now that Madison has told her daddy, hey, I fell for a married man on the honeymoon. girl. We're going to talk a little bit more about that because is anyone surprised? One thing we do know, because I haven't watched the reunion. I know that's already aired. I'm going to watch that next. Really, all I watched was episode 18, and I watched the after party. But I did see the highlights from the reunion because, you know, they show it like coming up next. So what we can absolutely see is that everyone's still together. Madison and David are still together. Camille and Thomas are still together, which I'm happy about. And with her new man is still together, which we need to talk about that too. But is anyone surprised that Madison and David are still together? I'm not because what I told everyone before was they were marrying each other's trauma. And let me tell you, when you marry a person who heals your trauma, it feels good. And same thing is going on with Eminem and her man. But in this episode, we're going to talk about all the different scenes, y'all. I'm happy to see that Camille and Thomas are really, really happy together. Alan's out here talking about he's in his whole stage. But it ain't gonna last long because he ain't really no hoe. Camille is so happy. She's now singing the praises of her man. That's good. We're gonna talk about that as well. Carla's talking about she's a born again virgin because she never really consummated her marriage. And Juan over here trying to be lifelong friends with Carla. Good for Carla that she said no. Girl, ain't nobody trying to be no friend zone. Women, take a page from Carla. When you are with a man and he has clearly said he does not want to be with you intimately, sexually, do not offer him friendship. Don't do it. Don't do it because all that's going to do is hold you back from the man that needs to be in your life that will give you both friendship and intimacy. Juan is still a user, still trying to use Carla for the bits that he wants of her, and then the rest he wants to leave on the side of the road, but he wants her to stick around for that. Ugh. Like I said, selfish. He's been selfish from the very beginning. MM is with a new man named Brandon, who's on here talking about he falls hard, obviously, because what is this story going on? What is this story they want us to believe? That they ain't seen each other since they was 5 years old? This is what she said when they met 5 years. No one's believing this, MM. And once we saw that cousin who said he's good friends with Brandon. We're not believing. What I want to know right now, Eminem, is were you even having any sort of relationship with this man while he was married? That's kind of what I want to know. And does this vindicate Ike? We're going to talk about that too. Does this vindicate Ike when Ike says she just wanted to be married? Partially it does. Let's admit it. As much as we may not like Ike, it partially vindicates him on that point that MM just wanted to be married. But we're going to talk about that too. Doesn't mean I'm mad at her. It just means part of it is true. Part of it is true. So we're going to have to talk about that a little bit more. Who else we got to talk about? Of course, David and Madison. They're in love. David over here looking like Buddha. I saw a lot of Buddhas when I was in Japan and Taiwan because, they into that Buddhism. And David looked like one of those big old fat Buddhas. I ain't going to lie. You don't see them going to the gym no more. All of a sudden now, isn't it ironic that after the show is over, we don't see David and Madison in the gym no more? Remember, that's where all these scenes were, in the gym. Now that they don't have to go on dates in the gym, where are these two people going out eating steak and ice cream? Woo, woo, woo. Madison running around talking about she ready to take out Michelle, and she walking down the stairs with her red dress, red lipstick, red eyeshadow, talking about give her devil horns, and she laughing like the devil, laughing like the devil, like the Joker. She a wolf in sheep's clothing. We're going to break that down more because like I told you before, oh, Madison, poor Michelle. And not poor Michelle because we know how nasty Michelle was, but Michelle really underestimated Madison. And I started telling everyone that Madison was the biggest villain, but Michelle really underestimated her. And Madison never liked Michelle from the very beginning. I tried to tell Michelle this later on. That's why Michelle's so hurt. Michelle's over here crying not over David. She's actually crying over the betrayal of Madison because remember, Madison faked it all this time that she liked Michelle. And what we know about Michelle is her childhood trauma is that she's not really well liked in the beginning. That's Michelle's biggest problem in dating is that she doesn't make a good first impression. People don't like her early on in the relationships. And I'm not just talking about men. I'm talking about women too. And that's because Michelle leads with a wall, right? She's mean. She's nasty. It's her defense mechanism. And so she doesn't make friends easily. So she tried to become close with Madison, and she really thought that Madison liked her. But all that time, Madison was faking the friendship. She was faking the friendship just to get more intel on David, what David liked, because Madison liked David from the very, very beginning, from the day she saw him. Everybody wants to concentrate on what David liked, but no, Madison was the pursuer. Madison was the aggressor, and Madison was the one that actually really plotted this out. And Madison liked David from the very beginning, and she only befriended Michelle in order to get intel on David to know what he liked. So that way, just like David said, she does everything I like. She says everything I like. Madison's whole goal coming on the show was to go from a hoe to a housewife. I'm going to say it. Her whole goal was to go from a hoe to a housewife. I mean, her daddy told us. She's told us. That's why I feel comfortable saying it, because it's not just me speculating over it. Madison actually has told us that this is what men have said about her. This is what other women have said about her. This is even kind of what her daddy said about her. And what Madison knew from the very beginning was that she had a past, and she has a past of sleeping around. And she even told David this. Typically, she has a lot of flings. And when she met Alan, this wholesome guy, Alan's a wholesome guy. He tried to go out and have this whole phase, but he's a wholesome guy. And what a hoe knew when she first saw Alan was that he was a wholesome guy. And what Madison knew from the very beginning, this is why she never really gave Alan a chance, because what she knew from the very beginning is, although I have been presenting this wholesome woman, because that's who Madison presented to the experts. Madison presented to the experts a wholesome woman, but the truth of the matter is her life is like a whole life. And when she met Alan, she knew right away she was not for Alan, because Alan was a nice, sweet, wholesome guy, and she was a hoe. She was faking being a wholesome woman, so she knew there's really no need for me to really get into Alan, to even try to like Alan, because the minute Alan finds out that I'm not really a wholesome woman and that I'm a hoe with devil horns, he's not going to like me. You see, that's the thing about faking who you are. You may fake who you are to other people, but the thing is you actually know who you are. You've lived your life. You know I'm really not that girl Alan wants. I'm really not the girl I presented to the experts as this wholesome girl. I'm really the girl who stood up on the table, who likes to go out to bars, drink all night, stand up at Oktoberfest on the table. I more than likely have cheated with other men who've been in relationships with other women. I'm the girl who likes competition. I like to compete with other women. I'm even willing to befriend another woman, even if it means in the end I get what I want, which is I want this man. That's who Madison is. And she knew from the very beginning that once Alan really got to know who she was, he would not like her. And so what she knew was there's no need for me to even really try with Alan, because not only would he not like me, I really don't like him. I like bad boys because I'm a bad girl, you see. And so this was never going to work. So we really don't need to feel sorry for Alan, because really um, it was a favor. Because if Madison was able to keep up the facade of being a good girl, their marriage would have fallen apart eventually anyway. It wouldn't have lasted, because you only can fake the funk for so long. And so in a lot of ways, I say, thank you, Madison, for revealing your true self earlier in the process. Like we said, she's a devil. She's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And really, when you saw Michelle, how upset she was over what Madison and David did, she didn't have a whole lot for David. She did, but for the most part, most of her hurt was centered around Madison. And that's what I said, because what Madison did was Madison tapped into Michelle's trauma, was that she wanted to be liked by someone initially, even like a woman, a friend, and Madison played on that. See, the thing about Madison being a devil, because she called herself the devil, is that, she's used to taking advantage of people. So she's had to, over the years, learn how to infiltrate people. And just like she infiltrated David through Michelle by learning his likes, dislikes, getting close to him, learning all these things. There was a part in this episode where Madison tells, let's go get this tattoo removed. And they flash back to the scene where David first told Madison about this tattoo he had of another woman on his chest, let me tell you, that tattoo removal looked horrible. What? That was a horrible little job. I don't know. It was just scribbled out like a 6-year-old. Like, I keep talking about how lazy David is. He's even lazy in tattoo removal. I can't believe that he thought that was a good job. He didn't even ask the guy to create anything new out of it. He just basically said, can you just scratch it out? David is lazy. But anyway, this is what was so crazy. What was so crazy was the fact that David told Madison from the very beginning, when they were walking on the treadmill, that he wanted to have this tattoo removed, and he thought it would be a good date night for him and Michelle. This is in the very beginning, where David is still actually trying to be into Michelle. And he's thinking Madison is listening to him as a friend. Like I said, Madison is an infiltrator. I'm telling you, when you think about Madison's strategy, how she tricked Michelle, not tricked, but she really took advantage of Michelle. And I'm telling you, she really roped in David too. And so she's listening to this story about what David wanted to do with Michelle. And here she is now saying, in that moment, she crafted in her head, not only does she want to do that with David, she said, I'm going to recreate that moment here with you. So wait a minute, you with a man that was talking about this moment with his wife, and what you did was you created a scenario where now you wanted to do it with him. You really wanted to take that moment away and make it your own. And she knew it from the very beginning. This is what I'm saying. Madison never liked Michelle. So her betrayal is so deeply rooted because she's not only talking about what Madison did with David, she's talking about what Madison did to her. And this is what is touching upon Michelle's childhood trauma when I talk about that Michelle is not very likable in the beginning of the relationship. She may be a good friend later on, because that's what we see even what her best friend said was that she didn't like her in the beginning, but after that, Michelle becomes a nice person who could be a good friend. And I think that's what you're seeing even with Michelle with some of the ladies. I don't think any of the ladies like Michelle in the beginning. No one liked Michelle, let's be honest. But as time went on, Michelle tends to let down her guards, and she tends to show more of maybe her inner strength, and then her inner sensitivities, I should say, and maybe that becomes more likable. But what you always got to remember about Michelle is it's in her. So at any point in time, it can come out. But I just thought that Madison, all of that giggling and walking down the stairs, all of that gloating, all of that sort of pestering of Michelle, I just thought it was so mean-spirited. And you could tell that it had been a long time coming. You could tell that Madison has been holding in this animosity for Michelle a long time. Imagine that you're in love with a woman's husband, and this woman is talking bad about her husband, but really is the man you're in love with. Can you imagine how much Madison had to bite her tongue? And finally, in this moment, she can say everything to Michelle that she wanted to say. That's why Michelle's like, I don't understand why you're so angry with me, Madison. Well, as if it just started. Well, Michelle's not getting this anger towards her was from the very beginning. She never liked you. You see, Michelle's confused over why all of a sudden the anger towards me, because it feels sudden. But the truth of the matter is Madison never liked Michelle, because Michelle had what Madison wanted. I wouldn't even be surprised if all those times Michelle and Madison were talking to each other, that Madison didn't sort of psychologically encourage Michelle to not like David. I'm going to say it. Imagine that you are a woman and you're in a marriage you're not happy with, and you have a friend you're confiding in, and that woman secretly wants your man. Can you imagine the type of advice she's giving you? Or can you imagine how she's validating maybe some of your feelings and emotions that are actually pushing you more away from your husband, as opposed to trying to encourage you to do something a little bit differently? I imagine that's the role that Madison was playing with Michelle. Madison, when she calls herself the devil, she's correct. It really is sort of mean-spirited and sort of like a psychological warfare she does on people. And David, he's not the brightest light bulb in the pack. And like David's trauma, all he wants to do is to be accepted by the blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. And what Madison wants is she wanted to be a hoe turned into a housewife. She needed a fresh start, because Madison's got a reputation. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I'm pretty sure Madison has a reputation around town. And she wanted to be turned into a housewife. Not really, because we know she ain't going to be no housewife with David. But she wanted to be married. I do believe that Madison came on this show to be married. And she thought she had to present a different woman to be married, because what has kept her from marriage is her real life, her whole life. It's kept her from marriage. And so I think when she came on this show, she said, I'm going to craft a new person just in order to get married. And then they paired her with a nice, wholesome guy like Alan. She's like, what the hell? You paired me with a nice, wholesome guy, but I'm not going to be able to go from a hoe to a housewife. So in the end, Madison got what she wanted. She said, I got to be a housewife, and I got to be a housewife with a man who's also a bad boy, because David is a bad boy. He doesn't like to follow rules. And it was never anything about all that stuff Madison was talking about. She feels accepted by David. David accepts her past because David is getting something he wants. He's with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman that makes him feel good. Feel good. You know what, y'all? I forgot to play my intro music. So give me a minute. I'm going to play it right now. What a long introduction. We're going to play it right now, and we're going to come right back. Okay, so we're back. We're going to get into a couple of these scenes that I watched. Like I said, it's not much of a recap. It's going to be more just talking about what I saw, and what I was thinking as I was watching things. Um, a lot more of the toxic positivity coming from Juan. I'm looking at my notes and this scene where Juan was like, why can't we all just be friends? Juan. Juan was on the after party too, talking about how much he loves Carla. Carla's a wonderful person. And I really would want Carla in my life forever. And although I know we don't need to be together all the time, it would be nice to see Carla every couple of months and be friends. What for? Oh, Juan. I know a lot of people are like, I think on the after party, Keisha and I, Pulliam, her husband, was on the after party talking about, you sure there are no unresolved issues? You sure you don't secretly want to be with Carla? And Juan was emphatic. He said, no. He says, there's a lot of things I love about Carla. She's funny. She's outgoing. She's like a very good friend, my best friend. But there's just some fundamental differences with Carla in that I couldn't see myself married to her. This is what he says. And I think the fundamental differences he was talking about was definitely around money and wealth and career. Let's be honest. That's what it was about. He wants to say it was about the sage and the psychic stuff. But I'm going to tell you what, that wasn't it. It was about the money. And her approach to career and her approach to those were the parts about Juan that he really couldn't get with. Because like I tell you before, Juan's biggest concern in life is to be poor again, like he was when he was a child. And Carla's too much of a risk. She's too much of a free spirit. She's not stable. She don't come with no pension. Carla don't come with a pension or a 401k. And Juan he's going to need that. He's going to need some stability because that's his biggest fear. So he wants Carla around for her fun, outgoingness, her positivity. Because remember, Juan is actually toxic positivity, but Carla's very positive. And Juan liked that. And, but he wants to keep Carla in his back pocket and use her. I was so proud of Carla when he was talking about, hey, can we be friends? And Carla said, we don't really need to be, because that's one of the biggest mistakes that women do when they break up with men. They want to stay their friends. Why? When you go into a new relationship, no man really wants to be dealing with your ex in your life. So there's really no need to carry exes unless, you had children with the man, okay? And even then you need boundaries. But you don't want your past. People always talk about you don't want your past to interrupt your future. Well, lots of time people talk about that in terms of trauma. Like, let's say you had a bad breakup or negativity. You don't want to carry that negativity over into a new relationship. But in a lot of ways, you also don't want to carry over even a lot of friendships over into a new relationship. You want your relationships to be as much of a fresh start as you can. I think there was another scene, talking about scenes, where Madison and David were talking about where is the most, I don't think they call it sexiest or exotic place you ever had sex. I would even advise women to do not answer these questions. You really never want to give your new man the image of you having sex with another man in any other place. Let those be your memories. Of course, you're never going to get rid of those memories, but let them stay your memories. Now, when the question comes up, what you need to do is you need to say, lie. You need to lie. I'm going to be honest. You need to lie. Even if you've had sex in some very exotic or whatever places, you need to not talk about them. And what you can frame them as is, I can't really think of any place, but I know I would love to do it, and then say that. Because then that gives your man an idea and he can make that come true for you. Because when you keep talking about your memories of where you did that, it doesn't really encourage men to want to do that with you. Why does a man want to be second? If you had sex on the beach, why is he thinking you want the moments to be special, even if they weren't your first? I'm gonna just tell y'all, women, you need to lie. But Madison, who is, you know, a bona fide, proud previous hoe turned into a house, trying to be a housewife. She was willing to share those moments. And David, he was happy because in his mind, he's thinking, good, I get to do it to you too, because you my dream too. But ladies, it's a risk. If you have a David, I guess it will work out. But if you don't, it's not gonna work out well. So keep your memories to yourself. And I was proud of Carla when she said, no, we don't need to be friends. I don't need to take you into my future. What for? You didn't want me? If you didn't want me now in the present, I don't need you in the future. I make friends. I'm telling you right now, Carla makes friends very easily. She doesn't need another friend in Juan. Carla is very likable. She makes friends very easily. People are drawn to Carla. And so therefore, she don't need no hanger-oners like Juan. Juan, on the other hand, he doesn't make friends easily. He doesn't trust people easily. He has walls up. So for Juan, this breakup, I'm going to tell you right now, with Carla, is a bigger blow to him than it is to Carla. And the reason why it's a bigger blow is because Juan is like Michelle. He doesn't make friends easily. He doesn't trust people easily. He doesn't open up easily, which means once he does get to a place of sharing anything with you, he feels a big loss. See, Juan right now, this what you see written all over Juan is him feeling a loss again. Yes, a loss. He feels like a loss again. He kind of opened up. To us, it doesn't look like he opened up, but to Juan, he opened up a lot more than he ever did before. He opened up a lot more than he ever did before. And so this is going to be a loss. Like I said, he used Carla. He used Carla to do work on himself, and he wants to continue to use Carla to do work on himself. But thank you, Carla, for telling him no. Thank you, Carla, for telling him no. But while I was talking about all this positivity, let's be friends. Michelle is over here crying, finally revealing what her true hurt is. And she finally revealed it really didn't have much to do with David. I mean, some of it, of course, but the majority of the hurt for Michelle came from Madison. And Madison is so mean spirited. She didn't get that part because Madison never liked Michelle. She never liked Michelle. Think about it. Michelle was so unlikable in the beginning by everyone. How is it that everyone else didn't like Michelle, but Madison did? Come on. Michelle, girl, you got. You got real bad. Madison didn't even want to admit to it. She didn't want to admit that she lied. She over here calling her babe. Madison never wanted to fess up. She just wanted to play hardball the whole time. Her attitude was just horrible. Very, 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 very horrible. And Michelle said it. Michelle had this line where she said she feels like she's leaving all alone. And when she said she felt like she was leaving all alone, she wasn't feeling as if she was leaving all alone with David. She felt she was leaving all alone also with no friendships. That's what she was thinking. That's why I think what Michelle has made a big step to do is now to become closer to the other ladies. Because Michelle was feeling as if she was about to leave the process. Not only was she going to leave the process without a husband, David, she was also going to leave the process without any real good girlfriends. Think about it. A lot of these people on this show, they talk about even though their marriage didn't work, they leave with lifelong friendships. And Michelle was on the brink of not only not leaving with a friend in David, her friend she thought she had, which was Madison, she was about to leave with not even a friend in Madison. And this is when Michelle quickly pivoted to start trying to be a little bit more closer to the ladies, because what Michelle was saying was, I don't want to leave here all alone. Not only not leave here without a man, I don't want to leave here without girlfriends. And as you can see, it's sort of this post after decision day, Michelle has made a big effort to hang out with the ladies, with Carla, with right? She's made a big effort to really get close to the girls because Michelle didn't want to leave alone. And that's what I talk about with Michelle, is that she makes a horrible first impression. I really hope that this Michelle that we see now shows up sooner in relationships, because I think it will be a game changer for her. it will be a game changer. I really see how she's had a hard time in relationships because she doesn't show up well in the beginning. She really doesn't. She doesn't show up as a woman people want to hang around. They showed us a lot of scenes of Madison and David, when they went, like I said, to go get this tattoo removed, and they do a lot of drinking together. These two do a lot of drinking together. I don't know. Do they even have sober sex? I don't even know if they have sober sex. But they went and had the tattoo removed. It looked a mess. Like I said before, it just looked like a kid scribbling on a coloring board. I didn't even know what it was, y'all. I don't even know what it was. And then they're over here trying to pretend like these were their first kisses. I mean, they're kissing, they're smooching, talking about how was the kiss? Did you like it? I think the kiss was really cool. I mean, the way these two want to keep up these lies, at this point, Madison, David, who cares? You might as well clear your entire conscience and just tell the truth. But these two like lying for sport because David is a liar. None of this is new. This is not these two first rodeo lying and cheating. They've both been doing it a long time, so they just like to do it. And Madison over here rubbing on the fat shoulders of David and that fat belly, like I said, like Buddha. Like Buddha. Talking about how they like public sex and the thrill of public sex. And, Madison talking about how she had sex on the Ferris wheel. Ladies, don't repeat the mistakes of Madison. And as you can see, if you want to get married, don't repeat the mistakes. And as you can see, she definitely was trying to turn from a hoe into a housewife. But we got to see more of the scene with Carla and Juan packing it up and leaving. Juan, like I said, still want to be friends. Talking about we can be cordial. Carla never said we ain't going to be cordial. We'll be cordial when we see each other, but I'm not going on my way to see you. Ugh. Juan still irritates me because Juan tries to act like he's so enlightened and he really isn't. That's the part I think that really bothers me the most about Juan, is that he tries to act like he's so enlightened, but he really isn't. He really, really isn't. I want to say that I really did enjoy the scenes with Camille and Thomas. I really like to see Camille making this turnaround and being thoughtful, being more caring, being more gentle, being more kind-hearted, having more words of positivity. I really like that. I think she got the best husband for her. Finally, she wore some of that lingerie, but then she pounced on him. That's who Camille is. Camille came on here acting as if she had swag. She was the city girl, all these other sorts of things. And the truth about the matter is, Camille really is suburban, which nothing is wrong with it. She's kind of dorky. She's kind of odd. She puts on a lingerie trying to be sexy, but then she pounces on Thomas and kind of takes the sex appeal away. I think Camille can describe what swag looks like, but she can't actually demonstrate it, which is okay. But I will say this. She definitely must have taken Thomas to a black barber, because was I the only one that noticed that Thomas has a different barber? Somebody's putting maybe some little oil, maybe a little bit of texturizer in his hair. He's got a nice new line. He came with that little side part. Someone edged him up real good. He's still wearing those earrings. I'm going to tell you right now that Camille introduced Thomas to a black barber, and that's where Thomas has been going. His hair looked nice. So kudos to you, Camille. It did look nice. But she's happy. She's happy, and she's talking about her future. She's talking about her grandkids. She's all these sorts of things. She's nesting. She's buying towels. She's buying bath mats. The sweet side of Camille is coming out. And I hope over time more and more comes out, because that's the side that Thomas really wanted to have from her. Thomas looked like he put on some weight. Thomas looked like he went on this cruise with me to Japan and that he was at the buffet with me because Thomas, I gained 6 pounds on this cruise and you look like you was sitting right alongside of me at that buffet because Thomas done put on some weight. It looks like it's happy weight. But Thomas and Camille better watch out because they better get in the gym. They better get on a diet together because they are blowing up. Both of them are blowing up. Because I'm getting on my diet, y'all. I'm about to start doing my meal prep. I'm on my diet right now. I started day one. Sure am. But they showed a scene with Michelle going out with Carla. They having girls' night out at the bar drinking. Carla said, I never consummated my marriage, so I'm a born-again virgin. I heard that's right. Carla said her and Michelle had become closer because she felt that she and Michelle always had the same temperament. And I had to cock my head to the side. I was like, what are you talking about, Carla? You and Michelle had the same temperament. And I think what Carla mentioned when she said that, I had to think a little bit about it. And I think what really the thing I think that Carla and Michelle have in common is they might have a high level of intuition. You know, Michelle was on here being Nancy Drew. And for the most part, Carla knew from the very beginning too. So I think the part that Carla and Michelle have in common is they live in the real world. They're realists. They really are in a lot of ways realists. And that's the part Michelle has to work on. See, Michelle recognizes things too, just like Carla does. We all, imagine that you are a person who sees things really soon, even negative parts of people or negative parts of society or life. The problem is when you see the negative and you could focus on the negative too much, right? Because you see it. It's clear. You see it from the very beginning. You see the negative in people very, very soon. And I think the difference between the sameness in Carla and Michelle is that they both see it. They both see it. Carla sees it. Carla sees it from the very, very beginning. Michelle saw it from the very, very beginning. But here's the difference. And Carla said they had the same temperament. But what Carla should have said was, we do think alike and we see the same things, but we handle it differently. What Carla tends to do is she may see it, but she doesn't always open her mouth. And what she doesn't always do is she doesn't judge people for it, and she still tries to give the relationship a chance. What Michelle does is she sees it and she acts upon it. And she doesn't give people a chance, and she becomes judgmental by what she sees. And even on the after party, Michelle says she wished her do-over, because on the after party they have this do-over segment. She wished that her do-over portion was to maybe give David another chance in terms of the friendship. She was very firm on that. She knew that she couldn't be married to David, but what she said was, I wish I would have given him a chance in the area of friendship, because what she recognized was, even though he would not have been a good mate for her, she didn't have to be so nasty. They still could have had a cordial relationship. And Michelle doesn't know how to do that. Michelle doesn't know how to see something that's, let's say, a flaw in a person and then not look past it or not still look for something good in that person. That's another reason why she has a problem in relationships, because she doesn't know how to look for the good in people. Michelle sees the bad in the very beginning, and that's what she gets stuck on. But the problem is everyone has bad in them. So if you don't know how to look past any bad, you're never going to get in a relationship. You see what I'm saying? So I think Michelle, just like Juan, wanted to cling on to Carla because Carla helped Juan with this. Juan is another person, whereas he looks at he doesn't know how to look past the negative. That's why now he's in this toxic positivity state. I'm pretty sure that Juan became toxic positivity from therapy, because he probably walked into the therapist's office with a negative attitude. And the therapist probably tried to help him become more positive. And so now he swung to the other way, where it doesn't matter what he sees, he tries to look at it as positivity. It's almost going from one end of the spectrum over to another. He needs more balance, because there's nothing wrong with seeing negative things and being able to speak on it. But Juan is either, he probably was really toxic and negative in the beginning based on his childhood, and now he's over to toxic positivity, but he needs better balance. And that's what Michelle needs too. She needs a better balance. She really does need to have a better balance. But we got to see that little scene with Madison and her daddy, when Madison was telling her daddy, I fell in love with another woman's husband. And that daddy's response that don't beat yourself up over it. The heart wants what the heart wants. Okay, daddy. He know who his daughter is. He's like, I've been here before. This ain't nothing new to me. He was not shocked. He didn't show any, no, whatever. He's been here before. He knows who his daughter is. And what he's chosen to do is to love his daughter no matter who she is, which is fine because he ain't going to change his daughter. His daughter is who she is. And he says, hey, the heart wants what the heart wants, and I'll support you. I'll love on you because you're my daughter no matter what. But that daddy knows that how the heck did you fall in love with another man on the honeymoon? Because Madison said from the very beginning, very early on, Madison wanted David from the very, very beginning. And she flirted with David from the very, very beginning. And that's why the father said to Alan from the very, very beginning, did you get an STD test? Because that daddy knew that Alan was a good guy. And he knew that his daughter was a bad girl. Then we start getting into these scenes about MM going on this date with this guy named Brandon, where they tell us that they've known each other since they were in grammar school. 5 and 6 years old. And they recently connected on social media. What, Facebook? We not believing this story. This is starting to sound like arranged marriage in the African community. This is sounding like that cousin, Kofu, whatever his name is, knew what MM was going through in her marriage. And he said, you know what, I got a friend. He is recently divorced. Why don't you guys, you should reconnect with him. That's what this is sounding like. This is sounding like a pseudo arranged marriage. And that's fine, but just don't be lying to us. Don't be trying to act like this is brand new, because it's not. And let me tell you something, this story that Brandon is telling, who Carla peeped it out, a lot of red flags, Carla. A lot of red flags. But this is what I'm going to say once again about red flags and traumas. That when someone heals your trauma, even though it's a red flag, it will be an immense bond. And Brandon has trauma just like MM does. We've gotten to know MM's trauma. MM definitely wants to be married. Ike was right. MM wants to be married. And it is a plug and play situation. I mean, he was right. I mean, I know we hate to say Ike was right about that, but it is a plug and play situation. She wants to be married. And when Brandon told us that he was living on his sister's couch, I said, okay, think about this. You're living on your sister's couch, which means you breaking up with your wife was not really planned well. This wasn't a planned breakup. I'll move out in 30 days or I'll move out in 45 days. This was more of a get the F out or I'm getting the F out. I don't know which one it was. It was either the wife saying, get out this house now. And so therefore, the only thing you could do is go to your sister's house and sleep on the couch. Or it was him saying, I'm leaving now. And so because he left in a huff, he went to sleep on his sister's couch. I don't know which one it is, but I'm going to tell you right now, there was some cheating involved in Brandon's relationship. And I'm not even going to say it was Brandon cheating on his wife. It could be his wife cheating on Brandon. Because the one thing I know about Brandon is Brandon likes attention. He likes a lot of it. We're about to see Brandon propose to MM 3 times. The first one was he got down on one knee. He didn't have a ring. Proposal number 1 on screen, on TV. He liked the attention. The second one was in the jewelry store picking out the ring, the 4-carat emerald ring, for attention. He got down on one knee again in front of the cameras for attention. And now in the previews, we see that he's going to be asking who? Pastor Cal to marry them on screen with attention, for more attention. He's an attention hoe. And when I know that there's a person who loves attention as much as Brandon does, they are susceptible to cheating, just like David. When you have a man who loves attention, sometimes the attention of one woman isn't enough. And if that woman doesn't give him enough of it, he will go out and look for it elsewhere as well, because his real hunger is for attention. And as long as you're feeding it, he's going to be okay. Well, here's the thing. The way we saw chase and work so hard in the marriage of Ike when we knew that he didn't want to be with her tells me that she's the woman for the job, because she is not going to tire. She's not going to slow down. She's going to give him the attention that he needs to fill that hole in him. But the hole is there, you see. So Brandon didn't really heal his hole. He just plugged it with So when we say that wanted a plug-in husband, okay. But you know what Brandon wanted? He wanted a plug-in wife. He has told us that he's been married for 10 years and that his wife that he's still married to, while he's proposing to another woman, doesn't make any sense, that he married her within 6 months after meeting her on her 29th birthday. But here he told us that he has 2 children. One was 11 years old and one was 8. The math ain't mathing. So this tells me that Brandon has 2 baby mamas. Because if he married the woman 6 months after he met her, that would mean that the 11-year-old, he had that 11-year-old already. And if he's been married for 10 years, that means he got with his wife when his earlier child was less than a year old. You see what I'm saying? So the last wife was a plug-in from the woman who he had the first child with. And then it sounds like he went on to have a second child. Brandon likes plug-in women. So this idea that Brandon and can't be together, I don't agree with that. I think they can. I think they can, because I think what they both do for each other is they actually give each other what each of them wanted. And Ike was right when he said that wanted a plug-in husband. It doesn't mean that she can't grow to love him, right? And he can't grow to love her. But what said was, I wanted a husband right away and the rest will come later. And when she was on the after party, I'm telling you, was glowing. And then remember that this after party that I saw, it was a while later. So they've been together, and we saw the previews of the whole reunion. They're going to still be married, or not married, still together. They still not divorced a year later. But the other reason why I know that Brandon likes plug-in women is because Brandon was willing to propose to a woman that has never even met his children. Remember, his children are 11 years old. These children are old enough to be hurt by his father being married to a woman that they haven't even met or don't even know. That's going to be hurtful to those children. And it's also going to be hurtful to the ex-wife, even if the marriage fell apart. But Brandon doesn't care about any of that. All Brandon cares about is filling the hole in him, which is with a plug-in wife. You see, that's why we kept saying, why is so intent on making the marriage work with Ike, even though we saw these red flags with Ike? And the reason is because she also wanted a plug-in husband. And let me tell you something. I think that there was a relationship with Brandon and before now. Now, I don't know how deep it was, whatever it was. And I think Ike knew it. I think Ike knew about Brandon and knowing each other, or whatever the case may be. Maybe Brandon was still married. You see what I'm saying? This is what I'm getting. What I'm getting, let me just say what I'm getting. I'm getting that Brandon and knew each other prior to Married at First Sight, but Brandon was married. And Brandon kept telling that he's going to get divorced. And he never got divorced. And said, I'm not waiting for you to get divorced, because I've been waiting on you. You told me that you were in a bad marriage. This is what I'm getting, y'all. I'm getting Brandon being on social media, his relationship status showing, it's complicated. Um, Me and my wife are together, but we're still not having sex. I sleep on the couch. I'm a fireman, so I'm away most of the time. I'm getting this story that Brandon is telling MM, and I'm getting that she liked him. But he was married, and he wasn't leaving his wife. And I'm getting that MM went on Married at First Sight. And I'm getting that she told Ike about it. And that's where Ike got the notion that she wanted a plug-in husband. I don't think that Ike is smart enough to have come up with that on his own. I think MM told him that I was with a man, he was married, he didn't want to get divorced. He didn't get divorced. And so I stopped waiting on him, and now I'm here. And so Ike was like, so you was just in love with a man and now you here marry me? And so Ike didn't feel special. And like I told you before, Ike's trauma is he was hurt by another woman sexually. He didn't feel special. He felt like a piece of meat. And I think that triggered Ike to feel like a piece of meat with MM, because he was like, well, are you really here for me, or are you just here because you want a plug-in husband? And I think that's what started to create Ike going in to protect himself, because I'm telling you, Ike has trauma too. But once that man, Brandon, found out that, wow, MM really went off and got married to a whole nother man. And then when Daifu, whatever his name is, the cousin, told Brandon that MM was having problems with this marriage of Ike, that's when Brandon said, I'm going to leave my wife for MM. And I think he left her. And that's why he's sleeping on the couch, because it wasn't planned. It was very impromptu. And then he came over here and he proposed to MM. And MM is happy. Because remember, MM is very methodical. She's a thinker. But all of a sudden now, we have MM just following her heart with Brandon. She's not using any of her brain, any of her logic. Think about it. MM was so logical with Ike the whole time. She was always in her head. In fact, everybody kept saying, MM, you need to follow your heart more, not just your head. Use both parts. Now, all of a sudden, she's with Brandon and she's not using her head at all. It feels quick to us, but it's not quick because this has been going on. This has been going on. MM hardly had any questions for Brandon, but she had a million for Ike. And that's because she knew all the answers to her questions. And MM is very, very verbal. She likes to ask questions. She didn't get rid of that. So when everyone's walking around saying, why so rush? You need to ask more questions, red flags. What people aren't understanding is that all these questions that you and I have, MM has already had all the answers to all these questions because she's already known Brandon. Because there was a point where they even slipped up. One time they said they knew each other since 5th or 6th grade. Then they were talking about, then they go middle school. So, this goes back to like when people would ask David, when did you and Madison get together? When did it really begin? And David always says it started at the gym, but we're like, that's where it started. When did it start? And he only just kept saying start at the gym. It started on the honeymoon. When? We want the time marker. That's the same thing with, MM and this Brandon person. They're going back to how long they knew each other. Oh, we've known each other since 5th. This is great. No, that's not the question I'm asking. When did this liking of each other start? That's the timeline I want to know. And they want to act like it came out of the blue. No, like I said, MM had a relationship with this Brandon guy when he was married. And so we want to know why, of all the people who was the least judgmental of the Madison situation with David, the one that was the least judgmental, I want to say, was MM. Carla was appalled. She spoke out about it. Camille confronted Madison as well, or at least somewhat. But MM never really did. MM was the one over there keeping quiet, giggling, laughing, not really saying anything, because the truth of the matter is that I believe MM was in an adulterous relationship as well with Brandon, and he told her everything she wanted to hear, but he was married. And on this after party, she was glowing. She said she's never been loved by a man the way she's been loved by Brandon, because I think Brandon is a deep feeler. I think he love bombs women. And then in the end, they'll get to know him. I would tell MM to talk to the ex-wives, the baby mamas, because I think he does have two, to know who the Brandon she'll see after a period of time, who that person is. But I don't think it'll matter, because what MM has shown us is it doesn't matter who the guy is. She's going to make it work. She's going to make it work. So no matter what the flaws are or the red flags Brandon brings into the relationship, MM is going to make it work. I know a lot of people think this relationship isn't going to last. It's going to last. They're going to get married. I believe it. I believe the minute they can get through these divorces, MM can have her divorce, and Brandon can get through his divorce, they're going to get married. As long as this doesn't become like the Love is Blind, Ashley and Tyler scenario, they're going to be married. She's going to be able to look past it. I think when the Love is Blind, Ashley and Tyler, it just got too much for Ashley. It just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. But I think if the red flags can settle down a bit with Brandon, MM will fight her way through it, and she'll be married to him. It's going to last because, like I said, they heal each other's holes. Brandon wants a plug-in wife. He wants a wife. He likes attention. And what MM will have to deal with is he's going to want attention from other women too. I'm not going to say he's going to cheat on her. I'm just going to say he likes attention. And she's going to do her best to give him all the attention he wants. Hopefully she can give him all he wants, because he's got an insatiable appetite for it. It's insatiable. I could see it all over him. And I'll tell you what, when they had that little dinner with everybody came back, and Madison came and David came, and MM showed up with her rock, her big ring, and was engaged. Who was the first person to notice the ring? Madison. You see, because like I tell you before, Madison is a competitor, and she was a little bit salty over it. I don't know if you guys picked up on the body language and what the words that she said, but what Madison was hoping for in that reunion dinner was that she was going to be the talk of the night. Her with David. That's what she was coming for, because she was coming there to gloat. She was coming there to stomp on the grave of Michelle. She was coming there to show everybody, look, I won. She was coming there for the attention, and she was coming there as like this victorious champion. But when that dinner came around where they're playing pool, the talk of the town actually ended up being the engagement of MM and Brandon. And when Madison saw that rock on MM's finger, she got jealous. I don't know if I was the only one that saw it in the words that she said. She got jealous. And she was like, how is it that MM got a ring before I got one from David? And I guarantee you that Madison's now going to want a ring from David. Before, she wanted to take it slow. Before, she wanted to go at this pace, all this other kind. But no, not anymore. Because when she saw that ring of MM, she got jealous. She really, really did. And she got jealous that the moment was no longer about her. Madison likes attention. Madison likes to be the competitor. She likes to be the winner. And MM stole the spotlight from her in that moment. And Madison wanted to be the one all hugged up and lovey-dovey with David. Look what I got. And here you had MM sitting over there gloating and kissing all over Brandon. It was a bit much for me. I knew what MM was doing. She was trying to gloat in front of Ike too. It was a bit much. It was a bit much, MM. Because like I said before, MM got that part in her too. I mean, one of the reasons why MM could never really let go of Ike was because, like I said, MM also likes to win. That's just part of what. It was a lot of competitive women on this episode. A lot of really competitive women and competitive in love. And MM was definitely trying to gloat and pose in front of Ike. And in the end, Ike didn't care. That's the problem, MM, is that You can't really gloat in front of a person who don't give a damn. And I don't give a damn about you. So there was really nothing to gloat about because you're not gonna make Ike jealous. He could care less, girl. Save it. Save it. But Carla was talking about she saw red flags in Brandon when Brandon was talking about he didn't have no light, but all of a sudden he got light because he's with MM, and MM's always talking about I'm his light, and Carla was like, you better have your own light. Carla, I hear you, girl. I hear you. But when you talking about plug-in people, that's what I'm gonna call MM and Brandon. They are plug-in people. They're saying exactly what it is. They're each other's plug-ins. That's what they are. They both operate the same way. There would be a problem if one person was a plug-in person and another person wasn't a plug-in person, right? Then you're not in alignment. But when you are both plug-in people, it can work. It can work. David gonna have his hands full with Madison because he gonna be working his whole life, because what Madison is gonna do is she's definitely gonna always compete with women. Madison competes with women. And she talked about it from her very childhood when she was saying girls didn't like her in high school, because what Madison does is she competes with women. And sometimes what her competition is to, steal people's men, compete with women. That's why, she's not really a girl's girl. She's not. She's a guy's girl. That's why she hangs out with men, because she competes with women. She probably doesn't have a lot of girlfriends. And the girlfriends that she does hang out with, they're mean girls. So they're not really there for each other. They're just there because they're kind of like a pack of wolves. That's really what they are. They hang together because they're like a pack of wolves, and they're all competitive, and they like to compete with each other. It's like the Real Housewives. Just because I hang around you don't mean I like you. That's their motto. Madison don't really like women. She hangs around them, but she doesn't really like them. She just likes to drink, hang out, and chase men. So what David's going to have to contend with is that every time Madison sees a woman that she's jealous of, she's going to need David to step up and do something different so she feels better. Like I said, David going to have to get a ring. I tell you, and David is broke. So I don't know what's going to happen, because David's going to have to get a ring, and David is broke. He's living in his mama's basement apartment. He don't really have any money, but he's going to have to do something, because Madison has got to have a ring now, because when she saw MM with that ring, she's going to need to have a ring. She competed with Michelle already, and now she's going to be in competition with MM. And more than likely, who knows, she might want to try to get married before MM too. I'm not going to lie. She might try to get married before MM as well, because that's just who Madison is. But that's all I got to talk about for this episode. This was a long video. I didn't expect it to be this long. But thank you for all of those who stuck around with me. I'm going to do the next episode too to catch up, so that way I'll be on track for reunion part 2 when it comes around. So hopefully you'll come back. If not, tomorrow, the next day, for my second catch-up video. But that's it, y'all. I'm glad to be back. Glad you came to talk with me, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.